Welcome to Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam, where we tackle the challenges of raising teenagers without the drama. I'm your host, Dr. Cam. Let's get on with the show. Hey parents, feeling like you're being hostage by your teens' anger and emotions? It's more common than you may think. In fact, 73% of parents experience the same struggle. But what if there was a way to de-escalate the situation and actually connect with our teens more, even building their confidence? Today, I'm joined by Karleen Savage, a hostage negotiator and conflict resolution expert. Karleen now teaches parents these skills to help them diffuse teen meltdowns and create calmer interactions. Karleen is going to help us learn how to navigate our teens' big emotions with confidence and create an environment that builds their confidence. Karleen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
I love it. So tell us a little bit first about your experience as the negotiator and conflict resolution, and then how that kind of turned into helping parents.
Well, the short answer is I needed a way out of my own brown paper bag. I have 7 kids, and my husband has a brain injury. He got it in the 90s, late 90s. There's no help in the 90s for people with brain injuries. So we were just trying to survive. And as we're much more aware now today, brain injuries are no joke, and they mean all sorts of things in the home. But here's the kicker, Dr. Kim, is that we kept it secret for 16 years. Not even our kids knew that their dad had brain injury. So every time something was happening, I was juggling. I used to call myself the master shifter. I could divert a conversation. I could divert attention. So I was a master at it.
Wow.
And then after probably 18, 20 years, I kind of looked at my husband and said, I can't do it like this anymore. I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so then began the great pursuit of conflict resolution. And then I loved the work so much that I went and I got certified in hostage and crisis, and worked. I certified for 8 years, and you work with everybody, all the different agencies and groups and things like that. And not everybody sees action, and we hope for that. Yeah. And not everybody gets well. Anyway, so knowing that, I was able to, my philosophy was if I can't figure this out for myself, then there's no business going anyplace else and talking about it. And so it took me a little bit, and several years. And now, because I've been able to do it for myself, not perfectly, but it's so funny because when you know how to do it, you know where you're screwing it up too.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you just go, shoot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Been done better.
I relate to that. Yes.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, when we, and I was just telling you before this, but I want to just share with the audience too. I think one of the things I hear from multiple people is this concern when their kids get into these kind of big emotional states. And I'm going to guess too, with your husband's brain injury, that resulted in some of those states, correct?
Absolutely.
So we get in this state, and sometimes it can even be violent. It's irrational. It's scary. It triggers us, and parents don't know how to handle it. They're just in this place going, what do I do? I'm scared. I'm scared for them. I'm scared for me. So what can you tell parents when they're in the situation, what they can do and possibly what we need to avoid doing?
Well, I guess for me, I'm going to preface this to saying, I'm going to assume, and this is how we're going to build this. I'm going to assume that everybody listening to these podcasts and trying to be better parents, they want the very best for their kids. I'm going to assume that because what I'm going to say next gets behind that assumption. Okay. I'm going to assume that our parents love their kids. want them to grow up being good, productive human beings. And if that is the case, then what I'm about to say will work.
Mm.
And that is when you hit an escalation, and I can share a story of my son. He was in his 20s and he was hitting an escalation. He just had that personality. He was kind of quiet. He didn't like anybody knowing his business. He worked his own little strategies behind the scenes, as teenagers will do, and as he had come to master. And as he grew up, he still kept that persona.
Mm-hmm.
So we had hit something where it was a discussion, and some of the kids were like behind him. Hey, and it was over some airline tickets. And his sister worked at the airline, and you could give guest passes. But with that responsibility comes, you could also get fired if somebody using your guest passes gets out of line, and they don't like the way they're being treated, maybe the gate agents or something like that. And so, my daughter was apprehensive to give him some airline tickets because we just didn't know, you just don't know what kind of mood he's going to be in. And if he's going to, get angry at somebody or say something he shouldn't or whatever. So she was apprehensive, and he was up at the house with his brother and my husband and me. And the brother said, I don't really know what her problem is. Why couldn't she just give him the tickets? And my husband chimes in and says, yeah, I don't know what that's about either. And I went, great. This is talk about being a woman on an island,
Yeah.
And so I sat there and I went, crud, I got to think fast. And in the meantime, they're jawing back and forth. I'm sitting silent. And this son begins to round the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the hallway, the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the hallway. And this begins to move. And I'm watching this. Now, if you can imagine crisis, hostage situations, people getting antsy and getting pent up and getting keyed up. And that's just kind of what you're kind of describing. I guess I'm giving you more of a visual.
Yeah.
And so this was what was happening. And I knew enough about this son to know that he will bolt. And he'll bolt and get behind the wheel of a car. And that brings up all other kinds of things for a mom, right? And so I had to think, and I sat there, no joke. I'm going to tell you kind of what goes through your head when you know these skills. I'm sitting there going, this child needs to learn, right? Because I'm giving you the parental thoughts. And so that parents that are listening will go, oh yeah, I get that one.
Exactly.
And so I'm sitting there going, I know I can help here, but I don't know that he should have the help. I think he should suffer a little bit or have to stand still or get involved in his own conversation, because right now he has his brother and his dad doing his bidding for him. And I'm not in favor of that. He needs to speak for himself. But in the meantime, he's circling. Yeah. And the dad and brother are talking, yammering. And I'm sitting there, and I sat there going, I don't want to help. Yeah, we do that as parents.
Oh, yeah.
We sit there and go, I don't want to do this. And then I went, okay, Karleen, step up, step in, which is why I said I'm going to make some assumptions on parents. Step up, step in. And so I did. And so I looked at him and I said, son, I said, and this is one of my key lines. So you're getting it here. This is one of my key lines. And I said, son, if you could write the best outcome for the situation, what would it be? And he stops, he looks at me as he's circling, right? He stops, he looks at me and he goes, what? Now imagine your own teenagers doing that challenge.
Oh yeah.
Now, if your overarching philosophy is, I love this kid, I want the best for them, I want them to be good, productive human beings, if those are your overarching philosophies, then you take that, right? And he goes, what? Do not make an assumption that they are challenging you for the things that you're thinking.
Correct.
So he looked at me and said, what? I said, look, if you could write the best outcome for this situation, what would it have been? Everyone I asked that question of, what do you think his favorite scenario would be? And everyone says to get the tickets.
Mhm.
That makes sense. He wanted the tickets. Why is she being so rude? When I asked him, he said, I wanted her to tell me no. And I went, wow. I looked at him and I said, oh, see, parents, we do this thing where we assume.
Oh,
He
yeah.
challenged me. He leaned in on me. And if I had done what we assume he wanted, I would have said, well, you didn't deserve the tickets. Sometimes you're a hothead. You don't. But I said, no, what would your outcome be in the best situation? I wanted her to tell me no.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, so this is a respect issue. And he said, yeah. He goes, why couldn't she tell me herself?
Mm-hmm.
And that, when I said, what would be the best outcome for the situation, if you could have it, his shoulders dropped. Even though he was challenging, leaning in, his shoulders dropped as if to say, ah, somebody's asking.
Mm.
And so if you want to de-escalate situations, do not make assumptions. We can think we know it and we don't. And when they are pre-adults, they have their own thoughts. Let's
Mm-hmm.
respect it. Let's respect, and maybe not, we don't agree with their thoughts, but let's respect that they have them.
Yeah.
And let's expect them to show up to their own. So you want to deal with high stress situations, respect the space that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
In crisis and hostage, you have to respect the players. And if you don't, that's when you get into trouble.
Yeah.
So that would be, and then you ask, how did you get here? How did it happen? In that scenario that I gave you, that was a situation that was specific. And so I was able to say, what would be your best outcome?
Mm-hmm.
Usually when somebody gets respect like that, they tend to participate at some level.
Yeah.
His initial level to participate was, what did you say? And that was his initial level to participate. If I was an assuming parent, which I have been, but if you're an assuming parent in an escalated situation, you're going to decide what they're going to say, and you're going to skip the question. And
Yep.
you're going to go right to the correction, right to what needs to be revised and refined. And maybe that's not it at all.
Yeah. I absolutely love that, Karleen, because I think we do jump right to the fix before we know the problem. And that pisses them off more. Right?
Well, it does with us too, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. And
Like,
then we're throwing more emotion onto the whole thing.
I
So
know.
let me ask you now, if we've gotten past the point where we can even ask the question, like they're past rational mode now, and they're just in kind of that blind, ragey emotion place. Is there anything we can do at that point to de-escalate, or what is the best thing we can do in that moment?
And I'm not, perhaps you could give me a little bit more context, because I'm not quite sure, because that de-escalates a lot.
Right there. So
Yeah.
if we do that before they even get to that point, or even if they're at that point. So even if they're
I'm trying to think. I've been in situations where, and I'm talking more domestic, but I've been in situations. Okay, so I've been in abuse situations where I was in the middle of a domestic, right? And generally, they're looking for somebody to hear them.
Mhm.
They're looking to get their own way. Make no mistake.
Yeah.
So, but that's not a problem. Understand, hear me, that them wanting their own way is not the problem.
Correct.
Okay. So it's just the pause. We're trying to get the pause somehow.
Mhm.
And so when you're trying to look for the pause, there's nothing wrong with saying, what happened or what can we do? I've had to step in front of people and go, what do you need to have happen? What needs to happen? Which is just a rephrase of the thing I just said.
Yes.
But it's being able to handle the moment. A lot of parents seem conflict averse. So they get to those escalated moments because they were conflict averse
Mm.
to begin with.
Yeah.
And when my son was pacing, right, around, and when he was pacing, conflict averse parents will go, oh, okay, you know, or be like me and go, yeah, I don't want to help.
Right.
I don't want this. I don't want it. You need
I'm
to
out
step
of
in.
this. I don't know what else.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So that one can help a lot. And I mean, outside of
Have you
terrorism,
been to the point where that question does not help and they're still emotional or still kind of upset?
my okay, so my question back is, what's the matter with being emotional and upset? Nothing. So, so when we're looking at it, when I'm looking at it, I'm going, okay, I'm really trying to think of a time because it works.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really trying to think of a time where
It didn't.
somebody's ranting. Okay, so let's just walk this through
Yep.
verbally. Okay, so if
Yep.
we're ranting and I'm going, I'm going to go to that dance. I don't care what you say, and you're a terrible parent. I hate you. If that's what they're doing, and you turn around and you say, so what will work here? You mean to tell me that their response is going to be not,
Yeah.
I hate you still? And I mean,
Right.
I'm giving them a silver platter
Yeah.
to have what they want.
Yeah.
So what is it that you want? And let's go from there. Now, if you can get them there, sometimes you will get a situation. Okay, so let's continue walking if it's okay with you. So
Please, let's do it.
if we're ranting
Yep.
and I say, what is it that you want? How can I fix this? In the rage, because I'm meeting them where they're at, right? How can I fix this? And they say, I don't know. I don't know. I just hate you. Then the response is something along the lines of, well, if you don't know, I can't fix it.
Yeah.
And that does something else that works in conflict, which is
Mhm.
put the onus on the other person
Yeah.
that's having the issue. Put the onus on them and have them come to the table. You can't just sit here and say, and so you hear my voice, right? This is the turn. So I was just raging, right?
Yep.
I met them where they were at, and they said, I don't know. If you listen to my voice, it turned. And I said, well, then, if you don't know, I can't help.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix this. So I know you want to go do something, but we have concerns too. But I want your concerns to matter.
Yeah.
How can we make that happen
Yeah.
if you don't know? And so you listened to my tone. Well, one of the things I teach in my class is tone.
Yeah.
The power of your work is in your tone. I learned that because I had 7 kids and I had 2 children at the time. And I went, man, I'm a baller parent. I can do it all. I'm so,
I'm a baller parent. I love that.
I'm so good at this. And then I had, and then I had baby 3.
Yeah.
And I realized, oh my gosh, I only have 2 hands. I can't hold on to that
Yeah.
baby 3.
Yeah.
Whoever the third person is, I can't hold on to them. So I can carry the baby seat and I can hold the hand of one. How am I going to manage? And I realized the power of my voice.
Mm.
And I had to start using it differently. Not screaming, not being shrill, but use it. And the
Yeah.
way you use it is you lower your voice. You want to be heard. It's not, hey, I said to listen to me. Oh my gosh, you got to stop that. You do that. Or you need to stop. Two very different tones.
Yep.
But the one that's lower in the diaphragm is the one that's heard.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, everything you're saying is just, makes so much sense because it is about hearing them. It's about staying calm. It's about not assuming we know what's going on, which makes us reactive,
mhm.
right? And so we're just de-escalating by allowing them to be heard. basically,
Yes.
is the biggest thing.
Yes. And hold their space. Yep.
Yep. So what
Yeah.
if they come back with, and you say, what is it that you need, or what is your best outcome? And they say, for you to give me what I want, which is not something we can give them.
Let's role play.
Yeah.
So go ahead and do it.
So
What is it?
I want to go out tonight with my friends, and you're saying no. That's my best outcome, is for you to let me go out.
Okay. So if you want to go out, we have some ground rules that we have always said were applicable. Do you remember what the ground rules are?
No.
Homework. You had to have your homework done.
Yeah.
You had to have not given any flack to your dad, for
Yeah.
example, because you two seem to have a tumultuous relationship right now. And you had to have done the work that you needed to do at home. Were you able to do all those things?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that you were?
Yeah, I got them all done.
Okay, great. So then my other concern is, are you willing to discuss how this looks?
Okay. How's it look?
So we are concerned about time. So what is the time? And I already know you hate this, but what's the time that you're going to go? What are you going to do? Who are you going to be with?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to tell you. I'm just going to go.
Okay, Cam.
I'm being difficult.
Okay.
I know.
No,
So, I mean, what I'm hearing, and but what I'm hearing is this is about you saying, okay, that's what you want, but you still have the choice of, if you want that, here's what we needed to be in place for that to happen. So,
yeah.
part of this requires some proactivity in terms of being able to be clear on what the expectations are.
Right. And are you saying no to say no, which a lot of parents do?
Yes, exactly.
Say no to say no because I don't know what else to do. I'm worried about them out there. Their friends aren't the greatest. But you know what? Now, we had a lot of homebodies, and my husband is somebody that says no to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And we joke about it now. But truth be told, we're worried.
Yes.
And it's a fair worry. Now you have to figure out how to work with it besides just say no. Yeah. And I have the philosophy of, I would much rather have them screw up while they're under my roof,
mm-hmm.
so that I can love them back into how to look at the world, how to understand the world, understand friendships. I would much rather have them screw up that way than wait till they're out and screw up a different way.
Yeah.
You're nobody's going to love them like you do.
Yeah. So, Karleen, what I'm hearing too is a lot of times this heightened emotion comes from wanting what they want, which, by the way, we all want what we want because we want them to stop and they want their, right? So we want what we want too. So wanting what they want, there's nothing wrong with that. That is a natural human thing. For us to get upset about that is a bit silly. We'll just put that there. So they want what they want. We don't want to give them what they want. You're saying we need to be very clear on why we don't want to give them what they want. Because what I have seen is goes behind exactly what you're saying is kids will keep arguing with us if our argument makes no sense. And parents get mad because they just want to be able to just say, oh, you said no. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen. And we don't want kids that are just going to roll over either, because going out in the real world, that does not bode well for them if they just give up that easily. Oh, you said no. Okay. So you're saying we need to be first very clear on why the no is and be transparent on it. Because if we make up stuff that's not true and they come up with a good, and I've seen this happen a lot. Yeah. We make up something because we don't want to tell them the truth. They find a way around it. Then we just get frustrated and just say, well, I just said no.
Right.
And they're like, well, exactly. You make no sense. And now I'm mad at you because now I know you're saying no to say no.
Well, and let's call it BS. Let's call it out.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem too, is that we're trying to smoke screen
Yeah.
that we've got it all together. And
Yeah.
maybe we don't. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong. I was kind of that mom that said, today is a really bad day. I'm going to get mad at somebody and I don't want it to be you, and so everybody knew, dissipate.
Yeah.
Walk away, just walk away. And then I'd come back and have to, own up to it. And that's what,
Yeah.
again, one of the things I believe is that it doesn't matter how old you are, you own it.
Yeah.
And anybody can call you on it. So when you're in arguments, yeah, you need to be just as clear, even if it's clear enough to say, I don't know. The other thing is that we have to remember they are not 8 and 10 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They are not under our thumb like they used to be. They
Yeah.
are pre-adults and they need to be treated almost like a peer with a really good mentoring program.
Right.
And so respect the space. You've got to
Yeah.
respect it.
I think that is such an important thing to hear. And I think it's something that a lot of people are still very resistant in, because there seems to be this belief that as the adult, we're the ones that get the respect and deserve the authority. They do not, because they're the kid.
My
And
my husband used to mantra that.
yeah,
Uh, he would just say, I'm the dad. I get the respect. And I'd look at him and go, really?
yeah.
Like, did you do that with your parents? And he'd go, well, no, did you?
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, that's different. We always have the that's different story. My story is that way. Anyway, so yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, I think what's hard is with respect is it's not something that you demand. It is something that you earn. And that is definitely something that if our kids don't respect us, we have to look at why. Not that our kids are disrespectful, but why do they not respect us? And I think that's a very difficult thing to look at.
Yeah, I had the expectation of respect,
Mm-hmm.
but I believed that I had to earn it, and the only way I could earn it was to have integrity in
Yeah.
my body. Have integrity in my work.
Yeah.
My work being parenting or trying to manage a house of 10.
Yeah. What do you think is harder, negotiating with a teenager or negotiating with a hostage taker?
Teenager. It's higher risk if it's a hostage taker. I don't want to give any disrespect on
No,
that. It is
no.
higher risk that
Oh,
way.
yeah.
But definitely with a teenager. Here's why: because a hostage team has a team. They have people all over the place to help them. They
Yeah.
could have 4 people, 8 people, they could have 50 people. There is a team effort there. And they go home at the end of the day.
Mhm.
They go back to their families. They carry their stuff, and they need to learn how to cope with all of that. But they have a home life and
Yeah.
an outside life. When you're dealing with a teen, you're solo. You're flying it solo. If you have a marriage that's in a bad state, then you're contending. If you have multiple children, you're flipping around like a fish. So you need to get grounded
Yeah.
on what you want, who you are, where you want those kids to go.
Yeah. And that takes a lot of self-reflection, which is not always an easy thing. Karleen, I want to ask you one more question, because you were talking about like the two people, your husband and the brother, talking and stuff. So the other thing that I hear frequently is somebody that is trying to de-escalate, but they are having somebody else, often a spouse, that is not helping the situation or is escalating the situation. Is there anything that we can do in that situation?
Um, okay, might go against character, but for me, in my belief system of doing this for more than 40 years, build your own relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You work together as companions, as parents, but if it doesn't, which a lot of times it doesn't, really what's more important, you build your own relationships. And that's what I did. So when it was head to head, me and my husband, because like he wouldn't remember things and the kids would call him out on it and he
Yeah.
would get very defensive because he didn't remember. And so there was a lot of warring warring in our home. But you build your own relationships so that you can recover hearts. You can recover facts and situations. You can help them learn how to manage and work, because you should be doing that anyway. If they're pre-adults, you should be teaching them how to communicate and work in conflict and, negotiate their stuff. And if you build a relationship of your own, then you can go in and circle back, just like you would do in a workplace. You could circle back and go, hey, I just need to revisit this. Yeah. Or I've gone to my kids and said, yeah, it was wrong. He was wrong. Yeah. I'm sorry. He was wrong. And suddenly when you're dealing in truth, then they will stay and listen. They will learn to trust. And if you stay in that truth and don't violate it, or if you violate it, you admit you violated it, then you have an opportunity to teach and rear and influence and help as they go along.
That is enormous. So it is your relationship with your child that you have the focus and control over. You don't have the control over the relationship between your child and your spouse or anyone else. It's just you. And I think the other thing, and you've mentioned this numerous times, so I really want to call it out, is that apologizing and admitting and taking accountability when we mess up, which we do. And what I have seen over and over again is when we want respect, that is one of the biggest respect builders I have ever seen, is when we're able to respect them enough to say, I'm sorry, I messed up. They don't think less of us. They think more of us, and they think more of themselves in our relationship. And I think parents are hesitant to say, I'm sorry, because they worry that it'll make them look weak or make them lose authority.
I agree.
And it's the opposite completely. It's when we don't admit that we're wrong that our kids start going, I don't trust you.
Right. Yep.
So what is if there's one thing that parents took away, and there's so much good stuff in here, if there's one thing parents take away from this interview, what do you want them to just have with them? What tool or thought?
You're the right person for the job. So stop playing.
Yeah.
Stop playing and assuming you don't get it. You got it. But you need to get honest too. You need to be true so that they can lean. They want to lean in. They want to lean on. They want to rely on. They want to be able to go, I can't do this. I can't do this. And they have to be able to go someplace to lean. If they can't trust you, if you're going to, give them smoke screens, but you're the right person for the job, stop playing with it and decide, how do you want it to look?
I love that. How can people find you, Karleen?
Karleen Savage.
There you go.
KarleenSavage.com. And if you do a slash, KarleenSavage.com/parents, I wrote a book, my book, the Confident Teen Blueprint, and you can get the digital download for free.
I'm going to go get that right now.
Digital download for free.
That sounds so great. I'll put the link in the show notes and everything. Karleen, thank you so much for jumping on and talking with us today. I really appreciate it.
No, it's so great. So great. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Parenting Teens with Dr. Cam. Don't forget to hit follow so you don't miss a single episode, and share the love by passing this on to a friend. Until next time, keep making a positive impact in your teen's life.